I'm Stefan Baumann. I would like to invite you on a special journey. A journey of exploration. To discover the splendor. To feel the excitement. And to experience the wonders of painting outdoors. In one of America's most stunning locations, I invite you to come to the Grandview Ranch and see for yourself what a weekend can do to transform your art. Everything you need to know is on our website, www.stefanbaumann.com. All right, so we got a nice little class back together again. It started off slow this morning. I thought, where is everybody? And then all of a sudden, it's like everybody showed up. So that's really great. You know, when I give out the homework assignments, I sometimes don't really know what it is that I get back. Now, this particular homework assignment, I did. You know, and oftentimes when students are like saying, so what's our homework assignment next week? I sit there and I go through all of these little things and exercises that I had. And I come up with something. And as you knew, a couple weeks ago, I came up with plastic cups on a white surface. And for the most part, most of you failed at that miserably because we didn't know quite what that looked like. So I ran it through the rest of my classes. I knew there was a possibility because Mary actually nailed it.
Yeah. The plastic cups?
The plastic cups on the white fabric. And the problem is when you have white fabric and you have the plastic cups, they just disappear. And so it's an exercise purely on just light reflections. And I gave that homework assignment to a lot of my students this week because I thought if Mary could do it, surely they could. And you know, some of my students did well, but a lot of them were still having that problem because it's a thing. You know, we got that idea, that thing in our head. And so you think, oh, there's a cup there, even though I can't see it, because most of you that came back, they said, well, I couldn't see it. And it's like, well, if I put a stack of cups in a corner with a white tablecloth and you walked in, you wouldn't look at it and go, what's all that? You look at it and you could make it out it's a cup. And oftentimes all we have is just the reflection to tell what it is. And Mary's was outstanding because she had light on cups that you couldn't see. It was like these elements of light. So, you know, but the thing is, Mary knows that, and that's why her paintings come out so good, she just paints what she sees. She doesn't question it, she doesn't manipulate it, she just perfectly looks at it and then she just sees light and she just puts light there. And it doesn't matter that it's not supported by anything. It's just that there's light right there. And that's one of the biggest problems with all of you, because you'll think, no, that light can't sit there unless there's a drawing of a cup for it to sit on. But if you don't see a cup in there, you don't put a cup in. You indeed just purely have light on a surface. So that is basically what painting is, painting what you see. If you don't see anything, don't paint anything. Don't draw it in. Don't try drawing the shapes first, and then try to put a highlight on the cup. So in doing the next exercise, I'm thinking, what's the next thing I'm going to have you do? I could have had you do cups again, especially since we had, and Mercedes over here, she's rolling her eyes going, oh no. But the thing is, a lot of times, it's good to redo exercises. You know, when I do my phone coaching, I have a certain series of exercises, primarily to see if people can paint. Part of that is, are they actually interpreting what they're seeing? Are they seeing what they see? Are they not seeing what's there? And even for skilled artists like yourself that we've had a lot of homework assignments, it's still practice. You still have to practice at doing that. So when I give out a homework assignment last week, I kind of base it on something that we've done prior to that. And consequently, I thought, well, we'll take an apple and then we'll wrap it in cellophane. Anyway, so when I did the homework assignment, I decided, you know, what we're going to do is we're going to put an apple in there and we wrap it in cellophane.
You said fruit?
A fruit, yeah, a fruit of some kind. But the thing is, it could have been a sandwich. I mean, the truth of it, I don't really care. You could have put your mother's jewels in there and wrapped it with cellophane, or, you know, it could have been something stupid wrapped in cellophane. The main thing is that you want to be able to paint what you see, and that's the practice. But ultimately, even if you paint what you see, sometimes you have to paint what you see. You know, there's two sections of that. One, you paint what you see, and I spent 10 years getting Chris to try to adopt that. And then I go, well, don't paint everything that you see, paint what you see. So it's a matter of trying to train the difference between paint what you see and paint what you see. One is just like you look at something and you just paint like you see it, like everything that's there, like Mary did. She didn't question anything. She just put the lights in where they're supposed to be. And that's paint what you see. But once you master that, then you have an idea of what you want. And then you can pick and choose what it is that you want to leave in and leave out. Once you know how to paint something, then you interpret it. And a lot of people sign up for coaching classes or take my classes here, and they go, well, I want to be a loose painter. And I go, okay, we'll make you a loose painter, especially the watercolors. You know, they have this idea they want everything to be really loosey-goosey. I have about a third of my students are watercolor students that take coaching. I have a couple of pastel artists, and I have even a photographer that takes classes from me via the internet. I don't teach him how to run his camera, but I teach him how to use what we teach and put it in through photography, and it's amazing. When he first called me, he says, I really like what you're doing, but can it be done with photographs? And I thought, yeah, it can be. And his work is just awesome. They want to paint loose. A lot of you want to paint loose. Part of the looseness is experience. You can't paint loose until you're confident. That comes through experience. You don't start off painting loose. You don't sign up with the teacher and say, hey, I want to be loose. Can you paint loose? Yeah, I'm loosey-goosey. I'm like, whoa. You know? No, it doesn't work that way. Abstract art's the same way. Abstract art works if you start with the fundamental of realism. If you can paint what's there. And abstraction is to take that and abstract it. So that it's not what is there anymore, but it still resembles, if someone is viewing the work, it still has some structure of the original thought. You know, Picasso did abstract portraits, and part of his philosophy is there's two sides to every face. So you have a face here, but there's a face here you don't see. So what if we just flip it over and show that part of the face? It's like, why not? You know, that's abstract. But to sit and moldy, mushy paint all over the place and throw a little dash in there and call it abstract, it's just wallpaper. Or it's artistic expression. The artistic expression is wonderful. You know, back in the 60s, beautiful women would get naked and they would throw paint all over their bodies and then hurl themselves onto canvases. And then they would put a few little lines in it and they would call it abstract art. Well, that's artistic expression. And the thing is, it's limiting because it's not really communicating anything. It's like my thoughts and feelings. And it's like, oh yes, well, that's beautiful. You know, that's why you go to a Zen class or a yoga class, because you can be with yourself and be with Zen. Okay? And maybe you can transfer some of that energy through your work. But abstract art is, again, taking confident work. If you look at Picasso's early works, he was a realist artist. And from there, he stretches and stretches. And then you start finding abstract art. You don't start off with abstract art. You don't start off with loose painting. You start off with tight painting. When you know what's there and you finally be able to paint it, then you can start loosening up. Now, a lot of you have gotten married and you took your husband's names. And the first time that you sat down writing your husband's name, it was like you came from a last name like Baxter. Good, hard family name. And all of a sudden you get married and your last name's Relampagos. And it's like, You know, like, and I'm sure of those of you that did get married, and you know, you practiced that, didn't you? Right? It's like, no, I'm never going to get this. But after 30 years of marriage, it's like, it's like really confident and simple, you know? Especially when you're signing the divorce papers. It's like, you got that signature down really well there. But anyway, so that's where looseness comes for painting. You don't start off that way. You start off tight and you start watching what's there. You interpret, you see it, and then you interpret it. In that interpretation, you start loosening up your hand a little bit, and you start developing a handwriting with painting, just like you do with your own writing. It's like when you drive a car, it's like, and eventually you're shifting that car and everything's going wonderful. You guys even forget how many stop signs you stop at on the way here. You're so unconscious. Well, that's how those artists are. When you watch them paint all beautifully and wonderful, you know, and some of you watch those people on YouTube and you go, oh my God, I want to paint like him. What a great painter he is. And then you go and you try to do it and it looks like chicken scraps or you know, really, and then you think, why is, because he's been doing it for a long time. What's interesting is that if you watch somebody painting, halfway through ask them, so what are you doing there? Or how do you do that? And you will see this mental shift in their head, going from right brain to left brain, and they go, I don't know. It's like, what am I doing here? I picked up this brush unconsciously, and I moved some of those colors there because I was looking at over there, and it's just an unconscious thing that they do, like you driving. And then they say, Carol, where's Carol? Did you see me throwing paint on that waterfall? Scribbling on that waterfall? I looked pretty loose. It looked pretty good, being sitting there doing that. You didn't ask me what I was doing, but it was a good thing because I didn't know what I was doing. I was just playing around with it. But I was working on impulse. You see something and you kind of put it in, you put it in. And you don't think, and then all of a sudden I'm sitting there, I'm like going, where's the ultramarine blue? Yeah, when something interrupts you, it's like, ah. And that's another thing too. Some of you start painting without being prepared. And here I'm like going at her thing and I'm ready to go into the ultramarine blue and there isn't any. And then what happens is a breakdown. I have to go, so who has got ultramarine blue? And Molly goes, I do, so I go over and pick some up. And now I'm out of my little zone. And then I have to sit there and go, what did I want that color for? Oh yeah, you know. And you get out of that zone. It's like if somebody interrupts you on signing your name, it's like, oh, where was I? You know, you have to kind of pick it up. So you get into this mental state of doing it, but it's all based on having an idea that was preconceived or something that's in front of you that you can watch and you can paint. And so if I throw something up here like saran wrap around or plastic wrap around an apple, either or, how do you do that? One of my first exercises is to paint a glass of water. One of the biggest questions I have with beginning students is, well, how do you paint a glass that's transparent? There's no technique for that. You have to look at the glass and paint what you see. Today you painted a red vase. It's not what you think it is it? Like all of a sudden it's like, how do I do that red? Even Dottie was like, how do I get that highlight on the other side without making it look chalky? And I said, well, you throw some orange in it. And she looked at me like, wait, it's a red vase. Why am I using orange? You just don't, you know, you tend to always go to the white to put stuff in. You have to develop that. And so taking something like this and wrapping it up, it's like, okay, we have an apple there, but then it's interrupted. And so we have something broken. We break that surface. And we start seeing the plastic. Now, she didn't paint the whole plastic in. Who did this?
Me.
Okay, good job. But so we got the feeling, I mean, is that plastic? But there's a lot of that plastic that is transparent. And so actually what we're seeing is like what Mary did was on the cups. She just painted the cups. Here she just painted the plastic. And we can get rid of almost everything on there that might be more hints and just leave it with a few. And it still would read that way because our brain has seen plastic around apples. We know what that looks like. And so even though it feels a little bit abstract, it still kind of works. The thing is, you could spend 3 more days on it. You really could. But would it benefit you? Would it say anything more? I mean, basically what you have is kind of an undone painting. I mean, you've got just basically transparent nothing. But that's what cellophane is. It's nothing. It's that. Look at it takes so little. In fact, we don't even need all of that detail. Just that little framework out there gives us enough hint. Now, this is painting what you saw. You saw that, right? But then, you saw this too. So now what you do is you look at the painting and you paint what you see. And you go, if I can get away with having nothing here, how little can I get away with this? You're all of a sudden now you're thinking, what can I take out and still retain the feeling of cellophane? I don't have to paint everything that I see once you see it. Then you can start painting what you see, and then you can start manipulating it. And if you know and have the rules on how to work with highlights and shadows, which we do in class, you can kind of guess at where you want to, well, not guess, but make educated choices of where you want that. And so what we have here is a really beautiful, I love the way that you have the sublime fabric. And this is, again, too, half of your paintings are established before you even start. And some of you want to wow us with all of the complicated things. You should see some of my beginning students. They think, oh, because a lot of the students who call me for coaching, they're beginners. And so they're kind of nervous because they've never really painted before. So when I give them their homework assignment, they're afraid that they're going to lose me as a teacher because they might suck. And so they really work hard. And when I tell them, oh, just do a little fabric and then put something in it, you should see those fabrics. My God, it's like folds and folds of, it'd be impossible for me to figure that out. Sometimes just a little suggestion of something is all you need. A little fold, a little suggestion of something is more than having it really busy. And this, look at this fabric she's got underneath here, this line that runs counter that line. I mean, it's like pure genius. It's like a beautiful note on a piano. This is the line coming this way and the line, almost making an X and cradling this. Just some reflection in there to give us the feeling that we have a little bit of a reflective surface and then nothing. She's let air just be there. And some of you guys, you've got to kind of think about what not to paint. Keeping it simple. She said she could spend 3 more days on it. She could spend 3 more days on it and not improve the painting. You've got to ask yourself, what can I do to this painting that makes it better? What would change it? What would drastically change it that if your husband came and said, oh my God, that's another painting? If you're not going to change it to that degree, when in doubt, leave it out. Okay? Beautiful lighting effect, beautiful luminous quality, just the right amount of paint, not a lot of it, but a lot of this dark color was kind of pushed and pulled because as she was working on it, she kind of played with the surface a little and made decisions as she went away. But the thing is, now what's happened is that she's starting to paint what she sees. And now she's like focusing on that, and she's developing something that's not even really in front of her. That at a certain point when you're working with the painting, and Mary's doing the same thing, it's a connection with your right brain. Now, most of you hang out in your left brain all the time. And so what happens is that she's hanging out in the right brain. That's why she kind of comes to art kind of by gosh, by golly, because she doesn't feel like she knows anything, but yet everything kind of comes to her and comes out. The thing is like by gosh, by golly, she's in her right brain, and her right brain is telling her what she sees. So she's aware of, she's looking at something, but she's also aware of the canvas. And she starts looking at the canvas going, oh my God, the nuances of that look like flowers, and I'm going to just go with that for a while. Because she can go back to the other painting. Most of you, your left brain steps in and goes, no, 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 don't do that now. You're supposed to do your homework like a good girl. Remember high school. If you didn't get your homework done, you sat in the back of the room with a dunce cap. It's like, no, don't do that. Don't go there. Don't venture. Well, it's a lot of movement. I mean, you know, so it's good to experiment to see when that happens, and there might be a time that you want to do that. This wasn't a good time for that. Because what happens is that we get so caught up in that feeling that it pulls us away. This is much more like it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so this, you're paying attention, this luminous quality. The biggest problem with this painting is that as beautiful as it is and with all that's going on, there's no central focal point. And so we're wandering around looking at a lot of things right now without looking at one thing. And if you had picked one area that was just bright and light and colorful and in detail, the center focal point has the hardest edges. Center focal point has the hardest edges. So we have a hard edge here, we've got some hard edges here. These should have been blended down, and then that should have had some harder edges to keep it in focus. And when you keep that in focus with all that stuff, the brain wants to go to where it's focused. That's what cereal companies do for us, is that we put Cheerios big so that people our age can see that for our kids. But all that other stuff contains 400% sugar and all that stuff that's bad for you. It's in little tiny words because we don't want to, they don't want you to know how bad it is for you. But they'll give you your name because that's the name brand. So you're bringing the viewer to that spot there, and then you're not seeing all the subliminal things. Is that it's kind of wise to kind of pick your battles and maybe, you know, go, okay, I'm painting, this is like plastic wrap, right?
Yes.
Okay, so cellophane is like, it's like big and kind of like, you know, it has a little bit more of a bigger flat things, plastic like that. So you might want to have just been a little bit more careful. I know when I have students work with foil, I go, be very picky about how you fold the foil, because every fold has its own problems because the way that it reflects everything. So you got to be very, very careful how to figure that out. When in doubt, paint it out. Just back it out. Okay, you're still painting what you're seeing, but you're painting what you're seeing. Use all of your artistic eye and stuff. And even if you're painting what you're seeing exactly, use what you learned to see what you need to take out. It's so awesome when everybody has their homework done, though. So cool. Okay, I think this is the last of the homeworks. So whose is this? What were you thinking?
How to capture the light, the effect of the light. And of course, it was reflecting from a lot of different spots. So.
Did you have one source of light?
Uh-huh.
And you were getting lots of reflections. So when I'm looking at this, I'm like, you know, I see it and I see that you're doing cellophane. This is also a really small canvas. You got a big pear. You got a really big pear in a small basket. Was the basket that small, or was it a bigger basket that you shrunk?
It was small.
That small that it could only carry a pear?
It was a little bit bigger, but it was, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It looks out of proportion, I think.
It feels a little out of proportion for that. I mean, it feels like it would have been kind of better. And then all of this in here. Here again, it's like with Dottie. It's wonderful. We have Mary's thing where she's like, every fold is a complication. Every fold is a distraction. When in doubt, paint it out. Simplify it. Keep your focus around your central focal point. Here, give us all that. But when we get out here, take it out. Just give us an outline. Unfold the cellophane. Try to simplify it. Because it distracts us from our story.
But it was so exciting and so
It is.
like fireworks and bright. Oh yeah, should have left it out.
Yeah. Because there's a beautiful grace to simplicity. You know, it's just like Mary's background, just a little, and then the cellophane went, you know, it's just a, she took the color out.
Yeah.
She took the basket out. She took the folds out. Which one just feels a little calmer to look at? Just simple elegance. That's why I said Mary needs to be painting every day. every day, 4 hours a day. The world needs more of her work. Simplify it. And then if it seems too much, simplify it. Simplify it just to a real simple statement. Same thing when you do other things like grapes. You know, grapes are really busy, lots of circles. Take all that out. Just paint a couple of the circles that need to be explained, some silhouettes of them, and leave the rest of the grapes out there. They're better as an empty mass. Learn to paint what you see and then eliminate it. You know, take out the things that are really not necessary. Simplify. Simplify your paintings. I know, we do that. But the thing is, this is the process of loosening up your work. See, when you look at Richard Schmidt, he's got detail right in the center focal point. That's where we would see it. But the rest of the painting goes away. It's not necessary to have all of that. You get to the outskirts and they're just silhouettes. All of a sudden your paintings look a lot looser. You don't have to paint them on that way. You just scribble them out. But that comes from confidence. You've got to paint a whole bunch of really bad cellophane paintings or foil paintings where you put too much detail in. And then you have to learn to take it out. Keep it simple. Keep it quiet. Focus the detail on about the size of a silver dollar, about the center focal point, and put all that detail in there, and then everything else should be a support for that. And your paintings will loosen up a bit. If you'd like to take your painting to the next level, regardless at whatever level you are, please feel free to contact me personally at 415-606-9074. Join us on our website at www.thegrandview.org and get more information about our show. There you can download our free book, Everything You Need to Know About Outdoor Painting.